Oh, fine. Okay.
Oh, actually, oh, no.
What? Well, I'm sorry. But I'm going to remind you, I have a piece of paper here. Don't come next week. Come,
Yeah, don't.
come March 7th. I'm not coming next
That's
week.
good. I'm glad you reminded me because I just am on autopilot now.
You're welcome to come to Asbury Park. We're having a pizza fundraiser for the new school. So come and eat pizza and help us make
I
money.
don't know if I could get there before, I don't have time to get there after my class from here. I only have that half an hour.
It's not close, right?
No.
No, for me, it's
About
an hour and a
2
half. It must be 2 hours from here.
Rain didn't come. I noticed that. I thought I was gonna go get my car and I changed my mind.
It wasn't pouring rain. It poured rain a couple of hours ago in Morristown. But when I came, it was sunny. Mm-hmm.
Oh, but I could hear it on the roof.
I was worried about the whole authentication. But she wouldn't need that, but she's gonna be able to get into the computer, right?
No,
No.
that's it for logging on to.
It's not the answer now. That's good, because Canvas and all that stuff.
If you log on to the,
That's for your username. But
that's separate.
That's separate, okay, good. We just have two-factor authentication for our email coming up, and I just was thinking about that. If nobody's here, you would need that, but it's a pain in the butt. I mean, I don't know, I just set mine up and thank you.
Well, this
It's supposed
is-
to start today, but it's gonna start next week, so.
What I signed in was there's a guest sign in for here.
Oh, so that won't be, yeah, I didn't know if that affected on the things, just,
I don't like two-factor because when I go to Guatemala, I don't have this phone number anymore. And so I can't do factor anymore. So some things two-factor with email, but the ones that do with phone, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they actually have a list of codes that you can get, like 10 numbers that you just put in.
That you can put
and
in. I just signed up for
use
something.
them one time.
I just signed up for something called Authy, which is a phone-based app for authorizing. But I don't know whether it will work in Guatemala too. I'll have to see. Like, I don't know if it's just tied to this, then it'll work because everything, my apps work. They don't care what phone number I'm using. So.
Well, Gmail has a backup method, so if you have some backup way.
You know, the other day a few weeks ago here, I tried to get in Gmail. It wouldn't let me. No backup, no nothing. It just refused.
We had that a couple of days where there was some.
It just refused,
construction
right?
You know, like there was something down.
No, they just said you
No?
can't get on. It didn't say confirm yourself on another because I can confirm myself.
Just.
No. Just no.
Sorry, no, not.
No,
We're
right,
done, we're on strike.
right. Not for me. So you tell me when you want me to start. Do you think well, that's not quite 5 after 6. Do you think the rest of your students didn't get the message?
I think one student is only 2 people late. One student is.
Actually, I wasn't gonna be able to come next week, so that's a good thing. I wrote down my, I have something to do later today, so that's good.
I'm trying to get more of my head and less of my body onto the camera. Even though it's small, it does look a little bizarre. Okay? It's okay. Okay.
Right now, I can't see it.
Yes, that's because I have to be in front of the camera. You can't see me now.
I can see part of you. Oh, maybe. Yeah, it could be a little pointed.
I can't point it out.
Okay, so that's as far as it goes, and that's it. That's okay, though. I mean, oh, actually, I can see it. Yeah, you're okay.
Eddie?
Yeah.
So, good evening. I was afraid there was going to be confusion since today was not scheduled, but in case I forget at the end of today, I won't be here next week, but I will be here on March 7th. So I have it written down to remind us, but I'm telling you ahead of time. So last week, we talked about getting the Weaving Cooperative up and running, how we accommodated different cultural norms, the challenges of communication that we had both between language and literacy. And we talked about the women developing some new skills. So today, I want to start with a story. After one of my visits, Eduardo went through the weaving area where the backstrap weavers were, and he said to them, "Wow, that's really beautiful that you're weaving a bat." And the women said to him, "No, this isn't a bat. Karen said it's a cat, and we're weaving a cat." And he said, "It's not a cat, it's a bat." But he couldn't get them to back down. So when I had been working with undocumented immigrants in Morristown, I had read a book, and it talked about the power that I might project because of being a white person with a Hispanic people. So that's how I became alerted to my unintended power. And I had an example of this early in my visits to Guatemala. A returned immigrant had invited me or asked me to accompany him for a meeting with his mayor in his community, because he said with my assistance, his mayor would pay more attention to his request than without. Well, I went. I can't remember if I did any good or not, if I made an impact, but I really was conscious of not doing that again. So in my work, I always have to be conscious of that unintended power that I have. So I've been very careful working with Grupo Cajola all these years. I don't ever make a decision. My idea is that it's their community and their culture, and it's not for me to be able to be making any decisions. An example of this was some time ago, I said to the group, we need to think of some solution to the weavers having their children at work. We need some kind of a preschool program. And they said, that's a good idea, but we can't do it right now. So I was like, okay, that's the way it is. And then a few years later, they came back and said, okay, we think we can tackle that now. Let's do it. So I said, okay, find someone in the community to head this project. And they did, and we got started on our preschool. In the town of Cajola, I'm not perceived as a member of Cajola. I don't ever go to the meetings they might have with the town council. I don't participate in parades. I don't participate in protests. And I think most of the people in Cajola think I just came there to do weaving or have a weaving business. I don't weave. So all these years has really been an immersion in culture for me. One of the side benefits of that has been I've become much more conscious of my own culture. One of the first challenges was the concept of time. In Western time, we work according to the clock. So when I say the meeting's going to start at 9, I expect the meeting to start at 9. But in Cajola, the time is measured by people. So when events start when the people are there. So it doesn't work the same. So one of the experiences I had was when having meetings with a group of people, And by that time that I'm going to tell you about, they were getting to be closer, so we could start maybe 15 minutes after I had said the meeting was going to start. But what would happen is some women would come a half an hour late or 45 minutes late. And instead of going to their seat, what they have to do because of their culture of people orientation is they have to greet everyone along the way. So this made me crazy. But over time, I've learned to treasure their focus on people. And over time, they have learned to respect each other's time as well. So when we have meetings, we don't even need that 15-minute grace period anymore. Kahola, did I disappear?
No, it just needs to warm up again.
Up. So what Kahola is an agricultural community. And so the cycle of the year follows the cycle of the corn. So one of the things that happened is women wouldn't come to work one day because they were working in their milpa, which is the name for their cornfield. They were doing hoeing or planting or sowing or something. And it's particularly necessary because many of the men are in the United States. So the women have become responsible for taking care of their cornfields. So it took a long time working with them to convince them that they could hire someone to come and work their cornfield while they came to work at their cooperative. Another thing about Kahola's culture is celebrations are very important. The part of the Maya value system is giving gratitude. But not only is it giving gratitude to each other when you do something nice, it's also celebrating good things. And so we have celebrations after, for the end of the year, we have celebrations when we complete a big sales order. And the celebration can be something small, like it could be having hot chocolate and bread, or it can be something large, like celebrating the harvest, and we have a big meal with tamales and everything. Another thing I found was that discomfort was endured without complaining about it. An NGO that had developed an ergonomic bench for backstrap weavers reached out to us to ask if we were interested in learning about these ergonomic benches. I had no idea that weaving caused pain. I asked the backstrap weavers, so do you feel pain when you weave? And they said, yes. And so how soon does the pain start? Oh, after a half an hour. Wow. So anyway, this NGO came, and our carpentry project under their supervision made the benches. Our seamstresses made these special cushions, and that we covered them in the red stripe we call kahola stripe, which is a fabric that our weavers make that is an interpretation of the clothes that we wear in kahola. So the women had a workshop in what is ergonomy? What is this all about? And so they learned that you shouldn't have to feel pain while you're working, that there are solutions for it. And this was an important thing for them to learn, that they could take action. So for example, our footloom weavers learned some techniques they could use when to relieve the fatigue they have when they're working at the footloom. And our seamstresses said, hey, we are uncomfortable sitting at our sewing machines. So they asked for new chairs, and they made cushions for those new chairs. And then the women asked for improved lighting in each of their areas. So all these things were good because instead of enduring pain, they had learned to take action about it. So they went from enduring pain to learning to take action. Wasn't this changing the culture? So when my friend had visited me in Kahola at the time we were doing the sinks, and she was involved in the project, she asked me, are you changing the culture? We're not supposed to be changing the culture. And I gave it some thought, and And what I think is, yes, we are changing the culture, but we're changing the culture from a culture of survival to a culture of prosperity. We're not changing the underlying values. So yeah, we are changing the culture. So one of the changes of culture that I instigated, after the footloom weavers finished their original training, I told them we are all going to come to work every day in our workshop. And half of the women withdrew from the project then, because Guatemala cooperatives, they do their weaving and their work at home. The women gather at the cooperative, wherever it is. They gather to get materials or hear new orders. They come back again to hand in their products, to have the quality evaluated, or and to get paid. And then they also would go to the cooperative in order to get some training done. So that's what our women were expecting. They weren't expecting to be at the same place every day. Because of my business background, I wanted them all to be in the same place because I envisioned that was where they were going to be able to interact with each other, be creative with each other, create themselves as a team. But that was, and they'd be able to earn a living. But it wasn't an idea shared by everybody. And even the people that did come, the idea of earning a living isn't really what is common in Cajola. It's an agricultural community. So people are used to doing a little of this, a little of that to pick up extra money. So the idea of working full time, and for the women who had responsibilities in their family and responsibilities in their cornfields, they were a little reluctant to do this. But looking back, I'm very glad that we did it because, as I'll tell you at another lecture, this laid the foundation for them to have a sustainable business. And so I thought it was worth it. So I can't talk about culture without talking about cultural appropriation. So there's many fashion companies, I'm sure that you guys are aware of it, that copy the designs of indigenous people without giving them credit, and this is wrong. It's particularly wrong when they take some dress that is used in ceremonial or sacred systems, and then they still appropriate it. There's an organization in Guatemala called the FEDES that's working in this area. They're working to copyright the designs of the different communities. And they're also working to organize women so that they can, so the women understand the value of the weaving that they're doing. And our women have participated, our weavers have participated in some of these meetings. And my first visit to Guatemala, I had in mind doing some tourist things to check out for my travel business that I had back then. And so one of the things I did was I went to one of those shows where they have folkloric dancing, and there were women in traditional clothing dancing, but those women were not Maya women. Those women were from the Ladino class. Ladino is the name that we use in Central America that is the mixture of the descendants of Spanish colonists with the indigenous community. And the Ladino class has opportunities that the indigenous class do not have. And in particular, makes me angry because they're bringing people to Guatemala for the culture and the history and the beautiful art of the Maya people, but the Maya people were not benefiting from this. There's been more action in the last years where the Maya people are organizing their own tour companies, but when I went there, that wasn't the case. So I've been wearing the traditional traje since my second visit to Cajola. So, and I was criticized once by visitors that I was culturally appropriating the clothes. So I had to give that some thought. And my conclusion was I wasn't really appropriating because they had given it to me. It was a gift from them. And then recently I was reading an article on cultural appropriation, and it made the distinction, if you think about it, think about who is benefiting from this. And if it's the indigenous people benefiting, then it's not cultural appropriation. And if it's a fashion company in Europe or the United States, it is cultural appropriation. So I wear the traje, which is the huipil, the blouse, and the corte, the skirt. I have a huge collection of them now that were all gifted to me, and I wear them every day when I'm in Kahala. So we've been fortunate for the last 6 or 7 years to have the volunteer work of our creative director, Robin Grunder. And we've developed what I think is a really strong process for developing products. So all of our designs are based on the creative work, the skill and the artistry and the heritage of the women, and then they're combined with the needs of the US market. So an example I have on the screen is a weaving design that's been very popular for us called quadritos. And how did this come about? So we gave a challenge to the backstrap weavers, just weave a square of anything. And then Robin looked at all the squares they had woven, and she selected this one, which is a traditional backstrap design. And we asked the footloom weavers, if you might remember from our early lecture, that we want to do things on the footloom because they're more affordable than on the backstrap loom. And so we asked the footloom weavers, can you weave this? And they said, sure. And they did. And that became our jewel tone colorway for our quadritos products. It was really popular. And in the United States market, we need to have a range of offerings that our customers respond to. And there's people with a lot of different tastes. So then we asked the weavers, hey, could you do the same weave, but do it in blues? And that was our blue moon colorway. Then Robin had been inspired by the way the women worked in shading of their colors, but the women are never going to come up with what you can see there, the champagne, because it's too neutral. They're about bright colors. They're not about neutrality. So in this case, Robin designed that. Another way that we collaborate on product design is we've taken, so the backstrap weavers weave squares that we sell as basket liners, and we ask them to weave tiny squares that we sell as coasters. And that's been a good thing because it's beautiful, the same artistic backstrap weaving that they do, but in a small piece. So it's a practical and affordable item for our customer base here in the United States. The other part of our product development is also collaborative. So in the United States, we might have an idea for a new product. And what we will do is send either the seamstress team or the weavers a photo or a sketch of what it's going to look like. And then I'm speaking more about the seamstresses, I guess. And so then they make a prototype. And they are free while they're making the prototype to put it in their own ideas about the construction or how it should be made, or they can say this is too much or this is too little. And then we get this prototype, and then we take a look at it and see if it meets the needs of the US market. And often we do this tweaking of this when I'm there having a visit, because it's easier to go back and forth quickly instead of, if we need to see it, it takes a long time to get back and forth from Guatemala. So that's how we end up with our product designs. And a very cool thing is sometimes we design products here that they decide they're going to sell in the Guatemala market, and they do. And that's my story for today. Next week, I'm going to talk to you about quality and how we invented our charming accidents. Not next week, but next lecture. Next lecture is March 7th. Please don't come next week. Or come to Asbury Park for our fundraiser. Do I have any questions or comments today? You're always good for questions. Yes?
So you said that they did a lot of celebrations, so
Yes.
maybe kind of like go a little bit more into like what exactly. they
Oh,
celebrated.
what they celebrate? Oh, we can they celebrate, they celebrate a lot in Kaula. I mean, they celebrate normal things like birthdays or anniversaries or something that each community celebrates is when they get water. So water isn't supplied by anybody. So if your community wants water, you have to organize that as a project. So it's important to have water, and so they usually, the community acknowledge that. In the weaving group, we just celebrate things as they go. Like somebody graduated from something, we might celebrate that. Reaching some goal, we celebrate that. Yeah. Yes.
So you had mentioned that when they were working full time, that different, I guess, dynamic, they were having difficulties with, you know, their responsibilities in the park field and at home. How do you think that conflict was resolved or managed throughout time for them to be able to feel that they were fulfilling their role for their family, but also being able to work consistent hours? Because you said that they were working full time, right?
So they work full time, but we did work through accommodating the needs they have for families. So that's why they have a 2-hour lunch period, so they can go home and fix meals for their families. That's why, I don't know if you were here the week we talked about that, but we decided to, so they have the ability to not be at work. They have the responsibility of letting the coordinator know that they're not going to be there. So they have the commitment, the responsibility for the time they're supposed to be there. But if something keeps them away, they have to call in and say what's going on and why they're not being. So that's, I think, how we accommodate that. And accommodating the fields, though, was persuading them that it was a good idea to hire somebody to do that work, so that they're earning money at work, so they could be paying somebody else. And actually, that's something that's been interesting in the whole process is how, for example, the weavers come to work every day. So there's a woman who knows there's going to be a group of women that work every day. So she comes at 10 o'clock in the morning with their morning snack. So that you see that the fact they have work, they're earning money, they can pay her to have a snack, so now she has income. So I have enjoyed seeing some of these things have like a following after that happens. But the real thing is just to be flexible about that you have work hours to be there, but there has to be some flexibility, but you're responsible for that. So we couldn't have a sustainable business if we couldn't count on who's going to be there and how much work there's going to be. Right? It just wouldn't work. Like we have a big order, don't meet demand. If you don't meet orders, you only get one shot.
How is this influencing their daughters?
Question. It has to be something positive in the way that they have more self-esteem. A side thing is, all of them, since we have our preschool, I don't know if I talked about that, but we have a preschool, we have after-school programs. So all of their children benefit from the preschool, from the after-school program. And so I think the whole family is growing up more educated, more positive, and more prosperous. So in that sense, that's my hope. What's happening?
I'm just wondering if this is a career goal for young girls, or is this?
You know,
Want to stay
for
with this?
for some people, but even some of our weavers, they are doing it while they're studying in school. And so, and there's educational system in Guatemala is not good. A lot of young people have the idea of studying so they don't have to migrate, but there's not a lot of work. And so we could have somebody, and we do have weavers that have scholarships that are studying other things, university level. But the benefit to us is stronger ability to contribute to the business, and we might lose them when they get a job. And if they don't get a job, then they stay doing it. So I don't know. That's a good question about whether young people will pick weaving as a career. We'll see. Although we have young people doing it too, so I don't know. We'll see what happens.
When you made those adjustments to the seating, did you see an increase in productivity?
So that it's,
Like you said that you had improved the seating, when like the painting.
Economic.
oh, the ergonomic benches.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I
No,
forgot.
I'm sorry. No, I don't know that I would see that. I don't measure anything that would show me that.
Okay.
I'm happier people that should be
Yeah.
more productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I respect that.
And the next lecture, I will be talking about metrics and how we know what's going on. Some interesting things that came out of that.
What are you doing in Asbury Park?
We're having a pizza dinner at a place called Tallulah's Pizza, and it's from 5 to 9 next Tuesday, and 50% of the, 10% of the food goes to us, and 50% of the drinks. And we are bringing, when you make a donation there, if you make, like, whatever your donation is, you get a minimum product that's worth about half of that. So you can pick some of your product. So it's Tallulah's Pizza.
Yeah, I'm from Mullen County, so.
Tallulah's Pizza. It looks good.
No, it's good, it's true.
Oh, I don't know why I thought you were. So I was interested, you're talking about cultural, influences, right? And so that was the person, who was that person that was, who has the concern about, cultural change?
So I had this friend with me that was there when we were doing the Sync project, and she said, "Are you trying to change the culture?" And when I think about it, yes, I am.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to me, it's like.
I'm not trying to change the values
No,
underlying
no,
system.
no.
In fact, we're trying to recuperate those values.
Yes, well, that's what I was gonna say, because I was thinking about, like a lot of the cultural pressure they get is, it's diminishing, or it's deteriorating.
So
cultural
their Maya
practices.
culture has a lot of pressure from the Western way of doing things, from religion, things like that. So they've lost things that so maybe in my age person in Guatemala, when they grew up, how people built houses was you all in your area got together and built the house. Now the migrants send the money back in the house, and it provides work, but it's not the same kind of collaborative kind of community. So there's a lot of things in their culture under pressure, and the value of that's our commitment to our preschool, is that it's based on their culture, so that at least those little children grow up thinking that's how things are done, and hopefully that will.
I mean, the thing it made me think about is, poverty and suffering, do become part, really.
Well,
part of
that
the
was,
I mean, there are all these practices like with babies, at birth, and like, I don't know, I read it, I don't know if this is still practiced, but, the practice of binding babies' hands together and feet when they're born teaches them that they have to do the right things with their hands, but they also have, this kind of idea about, well, I don't know, this is, we go back to Mitch talking about
Really?
childhood, yeah.
it's not common where we are.
And
so.
like the toys that they had were all just like were working tools. And then the whole message was, your life's gonna be hard and, you're gonna suffer. And that's the message that she got up. She also talks about, in all of sort of their 10th year, is there like a 10-year celebration? It's like, it sounds like a rite of passage into what's considered adulthood, and the message is like, you're gonna have ambitions, but you're not gonna get them. Basically, you're just don't think too high of where you're gonna go. But, like these kinds of little traditions that I think become, they may not be sort of original Mayan customs.
No, I know the 10, 10, and 10 is, that, I know that. I don't see that practiced in Kabbalah, the 10, 10, 10. I see in Kabbalah practice that
Like
children,
the women
like,
when they're-
children get to be 7, and they can be whatever they want till they're 7. And then when they're 7, that's when they start working in the field with their families, like that. That's like an age of responsibility, so. And then in our microculture, when you get to be 15, you go north.
Wow, yeah. Wow. So that's just. Change is gonna happen.
Quick question, what is the youngest age of a weaver?
The youngest weaver? I don't know, right now, let me think. We don't accept them under 6. So I think that the youngest is probably 120. We are supposed to be conscious child labor.
Do people ever say, geez, why can't my kids help? Or do they ever say that? And do people ever be like, wow, why are we waiting?
I haven't seen that.
I mean, whatever it is.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Oh, so why cat came about? There wasn't.
It's
really a
because it
story.
didn't. Well, no, it was just,
It's-
it didn't. It was my power that turned it into a cat.
Oh, I see your, so they all thought it was a bat.
Well, it is a bat. It's
Oh.
just,
Okay.
I'm the only one who thought it was a cat. No, no, that's terrible. When I found that out, I was horrified.
I wanted to show you this about my friend Belinda from
yeah.
Guatemala, but I don't know. That's real or it's not real.
It is real. That's a weave called canalitos.
Uh-huh.
It's not
from your.
No, we
No.
don't do that. It's very interesting, the weaving in. Let me just get out of this and I will, stop recording.
Kind of looks a little bit like your blue.
It looks a little like our quadrigas,
Yeah.
but it's not.